Entertainment agency. Send me the link, will you? Happy Pro Bowl. That's the day today. Well, we've got a lot of things happening here on the OddsShopper Betting Show, so we appreciate you hanging with us a little early, as don't worry, you've got a full hour-long program that's going to dive into the depths of how to attack the Pro Bowl from a DFS angle. We'll bring that up because Ben Rasa, of course, toes the line between both worlds, but this is really about how to bet, how to approach this from a smart, sensible, and, of course, money-winning standpoint here on the Pro Bowl. We'll tap into what's going on a week from now, which is a pretty big game. Last time we talked about this here, and also update you on everything, all the cool, crazy things that are happening this week, from sensible to long shot plays that you can have on the OddsShopper channel, VOD to live content and beyond. I know Ben Rasa, Jordan is here as well, so make sure you wave hi by hitting that thumbs up button and subscribe, of course, to not only here, but the OddsShopper channel. I know Ben Rasa is bursting at the seams to jump in and talk about the Pro Bowl. So I will sit back and shut up.
Well, I think, and I've done a lot of weird sports and a lot of weird shows. I'm not sure I've ever done a Pro Bowl show. So we're breaking new ground. I'm excited to dive into this with you. There are contests across the industry.
Yep.
It's got an element of preseason, I'm not going to lie, where we don't really know, and it's hard to gauge kind of intent. But at the same time, think there are some strategies that you can look at it. And we do have what's going to be a high scoring, pretty exciting type game. And they are trying to make it better. I don't think football translates the best of the all-star games because it's a tough sport to do that with. But I think they've come up with some creative ways, and we can possibly take advantage of that from betting and from DFS.
Absolutely. So a couple of things just to keep an eye on, right? You need the running back, tight end scenario here. So you can't just load up on 6 wide receivers out there and whatever way that you would want to pile up, right? So there's no ultra like extra creative ways here. You mentioned how they're trying to move away from the running game and the preseason element of trying to figure out who's going to be out there for how long and take advantage of it. There are a couple of human elements in this too that I think I'll just throw in here for you, Ben. First and foremost, the majority of these guys don't really want to be here. They've already gotten their roster bonuses, every incentive that is in the contract. It's to get here. It's to make it. It's not to play well. It's not, 200 plus yards in this game. So a lot of guys are looking at this as the week off, vacation, et cetera. You go out, you play a couple of snaps, and you try to get the hell out of there. And then I think to take it a little deeper, we have to look at the Chiefs. It's really difficult for me, Ben, to think that Patrick Mahomes is not looking this week thinking, man, I should be out there playing next week and not this week. And maybe that factoring into telling the coach, hey, look, man, I've been out there for a couple of snaps, too serious. Just get me the hell out of there and play the rookie from New England.
So totally agree with that. I was actually surprised. I guess, the Chiefs have been so good. They never get a chance to play in the Pro Bowl because they're always in the Super Bowl. So maybe they figure this is their one time to go to Vegas, do what they need to do. But I'm going to start right there. Macro level concept. I think that I would give a slight bump to teams that have had nothing to play for with rookies and younger guys that really want to be here versus, like, I'm not saying Deebo Samuel can't have a big Pro Bowl game, but he just lost a heartbreaking game. Mahomes, the Chiefs, these type of guys. Then you've got guys like Justin Jefferson, Kyle Pitts is a name that, like, these are guys that didn't have much going on this year, extreme talents, younger guys. For Pitts, obviously his first opportunity here. I think those are the guys that I would look to the overs in the market. Whereas some of these big time players, I think you're right. A couple snaps, a drive here or there, and we're getting out of there.
Look, man, this is not a playoff game. This is not getting into the playoff. This isn't even week 3 of the regular season. If you have the stature, right, if you have the cachet to go up to a coach, which pretty much everybody that you mentioned outside of like rookies, right? Mac Jones, no. But yeah, if you're Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, look, man, what more do you want from me? Right? I'm out there. The TV saw me. They were able to talk about some backstory, and now I'm gone for the game. I think you're right. A guy like Mac Jones, from a quarterback standpoint, anybody in an alternate stand who's here because of other circumstances that did not suffer such a deflating loss. And I know the Pats were in it and whatnot, but if you find somebody that's too young to know any better, that might be a healthy medium as well.
Yeah, I think we're saying the same thing in a game where you're going to have to make inferences in the betting market or the DFS side. You're going to have to try to gauge intent and how much they want to be there. And there is, even Chad just brought up, Deebo with his abilities to do different things. That's warranted. I get it. Some of these like extreme burners and talented guys, tackling is going to be borderline optional when they give Tyreek a 1-yard pass and he runs 90 yards with his cheetah speed. But at the same time, I do want to try to gauge, okay, which of these guys wants to go out here and make the most of it a little bit? Because that's the opportunities I think we have in the betting market.
No, I agree with you, man. There are some interesting angles here. Have you looked at the side, the money line, or the total? And let me say this. I went under when it was available and popped up here on PA, those books here. I went under the total. I know last year was this crazy little outlier where we saw a lot of points, but absent of a running game, and yes, they're going to throw a lot, but I still think that there's going to be a sense of let's just get the hell out of here. And collectively, that's going to set in. Even coaches, like, you don't want to be known as the guy, man, I really want to sign this. Oh, yeah, that's right. I pissed him off by having him play 28 snaps in a meaningless Pro Bowl game, whatever, what have you. But that would be my thing is I actually like this game going under. And I know it's moved a little bit higher, but I went under the 63.5 when it was available.
Yeah, so it's a pseudo pick'em. You have the AFC as a 1.5 point favorite over under hovering around that 64, but it's such an interesting breakdown because this is not a normal NFL game from what I've read. And there's a lot of different rules, but one of them, the clock's going to start after incomplete passes on the referee's signal. And that is something that in a game like this, there's just going to be a lot of time that is wasted. So there's going to be crazy long plays. There's going to be a lot of fluky things, but I also think there's going to be a lot of dead time in the game. So despite big plays, I actually am with you. I think that's an underutilized concept here, that the clock is going to be running a lot more than normal here.
Think about, well, I guess it all depends on when the referee signals to run the clock. But if you have a big play downfield that's incomplete, out of bounds, what have you, and it's not a completed pass where the clock moves, they may wait a little bit for guys to kind of come back, or they may signal it right away since it's the Pro Bowl. Like, I don't know the specific time, right, of when that referee is going to make that signal. But to your point, that could be 10 to 15 seconds of runoff just to get guys coming back. Again, it's the Pro Bowl. Guys aren't racing back to the line of scrimmage to run more shot down the field of a 35-yard bomb.
And that's where live betting comes into play. If you get a feel for this in the first quarter saying, wow, this game is going crazy fast, you might want to hit a live under. Whereas if it's not making a difference and we're seeing these teams play, this is like the NBA All-Star game where sometimes, they've tried gimmicks, but sometimes you can just tell there's not going to be any defense played until the second half or the fourth quarter, whatever they do nowadays. But I do think the interesting thing too is, Chad's talking about these kickers. Like, will they let them do some fun things? Will they let Justin Tucker try a 70-yarder or something like that? Certainly, this is the format for it. That's more on the DFS side. The guys will have you covered. But I don't think it's crazy to think that we see some – we're going to see trick plays. It's the Pro Bowl, and maybe some of that for your scores, for your home run plays can get in the mix.
Yeah, and let me just say this, because I saw on the chat, fastest way to get out of here is to play no defense. You're talking about playing no defense until the end. Guys are not on defense. Guys are not going out there not trying. What the NFL Pro Bowl has done, and this is what Ben mentioned at the start, is change rules to make it harder to play defense. But nobody who's played from D1 higher is going to tell you that you're going to go out there on the field and half-ass a tackle or just ole somebody. You're going to get killed that way. So guys, and there's also a sense of ego. Like, that top cornerback going up against that top wide receiver is not going to, hey, man, you know what? Just go ahead, catch Devontae, or whoever it may be in this case, right? Tyreek Hill. Go ahead. Just go ahead, catch that football. Like, guys are going to be trying, but the rules allow it to. I'm siding on the clock. I'm siding on, at some point, there's going to be a collective mentality, Ben, on both teams that says, look, let's just let this thing run, get a little slower back to the huddle, and let the clock run a little longer down before you snap the ball. That's my point in all this. The under favors the clock movement more so than anything else.
Yeah, of course there's going to be lackluster defense. It's the Pro Bowl again. But I also think too, like, in theory, the more teams score, the longer the game takes. So if you really want to get out of there, it would be stop them, because that makes the game shorter. But I think that you want to look at play time. You want to look at opportunities. And then I think you get some of the live betting. But I'm with you. I think the under with the new rules is where I'd go. I think that some of the rookies, again, I know I mentioned Kyle Pitts, but when I looked at him, not just from a DFS projection, but just even in the market, some of his props, I think you could look to him for a touchdown scorer. A guy like Hunter Renfrow always seems to he kind of has one speed. He's just always playing full go. There's some appealing price points. I think the bigger stars, it could be touch and go, just like the preseason. You may see them a little bit, but I'd be pretty stunned if the Chiefs are out there for an extended period of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Anything else we're here for another 15 or so. And again, you'll have a full comprehensive breakdown coming up from a DFS standpoint. But I think you're definitely onto something where you're trying to target guys who stand a greater chance. Like, we talked about this on the Prize Pick Show with EMAC on Friday, right? Where somebody like Deontay Johnson, who was thrust in here as an alternate, somebody in a situation where they're an alternate, they're kind of on that bottom of the Pro Bowl depth chart, similar to a preseason scenario where you can see a guy playing extended time in the second half. Those would be the guys I would target from both an over and DFS standpoint, Ben. Somebody on the bottom of the depth chart that I can expect to play deeper into the game because, again, it's a combo of where they are from a circumstance standpoint. And also, most of the guys in front of them are done. They don't want to play anymore. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Jason Kelce, or Travis Kelce, Jason Kelce too. They don't want to play any more football. They're done.
And then the one other thing that I'll say is that in a game like this, where you've got a multitude of quarterbacks, a ton of receivers, a ton of backs, the only stable positions are kicker and defense. Like defense is defense. It's not like when they bring in other guys, you don't get those points. So like if you do go to a defense or you do go to a kicker, you kind of at least know that you're going to get that production from that unit. Whereas these other units, there's 10 guys on some of them and you just don't know who's going to be what. So I did find that interesting. Again, not sure it's too actionable in a betting standpoint, but at the same time, if you want to go like first score is a defensive touchdown or something, I don't think it's the craziest depending on the lines you're getting.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Anything else we should clean up here?
No,
on this game?
Not to derail the show, but I think of the 4 leagues, the Pro Bowl is still the worst of these. Like,
well, I mean, think about it. What's the best, right? It's not the NBA All-Star.
I think it's the hockey, which is going on right now.
Right, exactly. Because you can't attach the skill set. Like, no. The skills, the dunk competition, all that separate. It's just the game itself. They failed by adding extra weight to Major League Baseball's.
Well, the baseball is bad too, but it's getting. I think the Pro Bowl is the worst. They should do something with like, I don't know. I was gonna say lava, but that's too extreme. But something to spice this game up.
Look, Jordan is voting for the NBA All-Star game. It's not a bad one from a star standpoint, but I guess I don't know what you're looking at from a betting standpoint.
Well, from a betting standpoint, I again have the NFL in the basement of this. Like, I think that the NBA, they don't play defense, but it's the same. Football just doesn't translate as well because you can't like hit half tackle.
Right.
It's a little tough there, but you know what? That doesn't mean that you can't get when this game was under 64.5, that money counts just as much as hitting the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. All right. Hit that thumbs up button, please, if you haven't already. And a reminder what we're doing here with Yahoo. We have links below for you. You get $10 free. You can sign up, deposit, play. We're going to give you 1 free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. Shout out to EMAC getting the let out here in the chat. And look, man, we've got the Super Bowl ahead of us. And you can explain to the world here all of the great things that we have coming up on the OddsShopper channel. There's a ton of content from VOD to live stuff to written stuff across the board. We are covering this thing of all angles. And let me preempt by saying I appreciate you all recognizing me as the long shot lunatic and sticking me with all the crazy stuff. We're going to have a ton of things from rational Rasa to outlandish Shander and everybody in between.
Naturally, we're going to have a action-packed week ahead. We have every type of VOD imaginable, from who's going to win the game, side total, player props. Then we got outrageous things. We're going to get into a debate on Super Bowl foods, the venues, all sorts of things covered. So I can't wait to get into it. Obviously, most of that content you can find. I know a lot of you have already been to our OddsShopper YouTube channel. It's a great way to get involved in the betting market if your states come online or you just want some action for the big game. But you're going to be seeing me, Eytan, and the entire team over there. I do want to say, I know we only have a couple minutes left, and we're going to give a lock it up because that's what we do. If you're new to this show, we give a lock it up. We give our favorite play of the day, whether it's a Monday, a Thursday, a Sunday, we don't care. But I wanted to ask you, we're now a week away from the Super Bowl. What is your plan of attack in terms of monitoring the news, the Azoma, the Higbee, locking in bets? Are you still in a wait and see mode for the most part? Is there a strategy, a method to your madness?
For me, it was jumping in really the start of some stuff that I figured would move and not come back away from the game itself. Like, I'm not going to touch, I think, the side. I'm not going to touch the total. If that thing gets up really north, I think of 5.5, then it's going to be hard for me to stay away from the Bengals. But now down to 4.5, consensus OddsShopper, of course, best place to shop. I think I'm just going to live bet the side and probably the total, since it's the last one that we have an opportunity to. But, the big one that I jumped in early, the 2, we're trying to counter the narrative of MVP, liking the Rams to win the game, getting Cup 650, that's dipped, Odell Beckham at 2,500. But What I'm also waiting on now is just trying to identify a couple of other TD props and kind of waiting for those to come up to be more bettable, right? Because I don't even think those from across the board are. So that's what I want. I think there's going to be a higher scoring game. I think you're going to see the usual suspects get involved. But, there's also like the Ben Skoranek of the worlds, right? Who's going to sneak in and catch a touchdown crazy right out of the blue. So that's what I'm waiting on, is trying to attack more scoring props, I think, than anything else. The general consensus is that these guys are going to throw left and right, Ben?
I think so. I mean, I think the big narratives are that, and then is this going to be more Titans or Chiefs in terms of the push to Burrow? We saw him get sacked 9 times, and then he wasn't somehow touched against the Chiefs. And I think the Rams, to me, are more Titans-like, but I think that's one of the major focal points that we're going to be diving into all week. And then there are some injuries to kind of monitor. I don't think it's going to have a gigantic effect on things where the lines are going to crumble if we get word on one of these guys. But as you can see, George just brought up OddsShopper. We're going to have it all here, and it's going to move. And obviously this updates in real time. The props will change. I think it's going to be a fine line. And tomorrow on the betting show, we're going to dive into this to full.
Yep.
When to lock something in, also to identify the numbers that you're comfortable at. Like, I know if the Rams get to 3.5, I will bet it immediately. I will be ready to go if that happens. But like identifying that beforehand, and I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but it's important to at least have a strategy to go in with, so that if you get your numbers, you can lock them in and be ready to go.
I agree. Anything from now, again, like we can balance this, but are you looking for anything legal, of course, that might be a little out there, right? Like longest kick, 2-point conversion attempt, offensive lineman throwing a touchdown pass, something along those lines.
Sounds like the Pro Bowl. That's all. I mean, you're going to find crazy exotics. There's no doubt. It's the Super Bowl. You can find.
There are a couple.
Are people running on the field? Will a mascot get involved? It doesn't matter. But unless I kind of stick to it, unless I have some type of reason why I think that one of these things could happen, like number of people, one that we always get bogged down is number of players to attempt a pass in the game, over under 2.5. And it's like, well, like will Odell throw one? Will a punter throw one? But it's hard to really nail down what are the chances of that happening, because there's no real angle to take.
Absolutely. A lot of these are guessing, right? I mean, some of them might just be odds. Last play of the game to be a quarterback kneel is minus 205 for a yes, plus 166 for a no.
Yeah. So will the game be in hand?
Here's my question.
I actually kind of like that. I haven't thought about that one, but even though you're laying some juice, it would seem like a kneel down would be pretty likely, right?
I would think so. I think they're trying to capture how close the postseason was, and McPherson with game-winning kicks, et cetera. And maybe people are thinking, oh, this game's going to be super close. But I think if the Rams, either team wins, you have that shot by all means.
Yeah, I mean, you just hope that the winning team, of course, you're going to need them to have the ball late in the game, so the other team doesn't just drive down and run out of time, or there's a game-winning kick. But these are the little things. Again, I don't think, and this is kind of my final theme with this, and we'll get into it all week, I don't see the need to lock some. I don't know why you would lock that in right now. Like, unless you've done your angle and you're going to determine that the line is going to move, and some of these props do move very quickly, I don't see the need to lock that type of stuff in. So if you've done it, more power to you, and you're going to have a ton of closing line value. I haven't, so I'm okay waiting and seeing how those marinate.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think, again, I don't know how much movement you're going to get. It's still at plus money from a week ago when we had this conversation on the OddsShopper channel, but you're going to get plus money. Will there be a 2-point conversion? Certain stuff I think you can already look at and think, all right, look, we've seen 6, we've seen 8, we've seen things move off that key number. It's the Super Bowl. Maybe you see some creativity. Maybe a guy misses an extra point, et cetera. So, there's some smaller things by all means that you've either arrived to or maybe you're still building towards. But I don't know, like, as you mentioned, these exotics, some may move depending on how much money piles in. But I think a lot of them, you may just want to jump in if you already have an idea or a feel for them. I don't know how much you're going to lose on that. I don't think that's dipped much at all.
No, it's not that. It's more, that if you just start firing from the hip, you're going to beat as many lines as you miss. And that's just, you're going to be paying a lot of vig. These are very juiced. So all these things are stuff we talk about on the OddsShopper channel. If you're new to betting, if you're looking to get involved, you're just looking to have some fun, you're doing a parlay card or something, I would suggest, over the week, hop on over to the OddsShopper channel. After you print with the Pro Bowl, because we know the guys after us have you covered there, take some of those winnings and maybe sprinkle on some of our player props and whatnot.
Absolutely, man. You mentioned we lock it up each and every time on the show. So a lot with the OddsShopper live betting show that we have on the OddsShopper channel has to do with the chat, the community, giving us some sharp plays, some sharp lock it up. So if you out there have an angle, something you've looked at, doesn't always have to be specific to what we're talking about, right? We've taken Olympics lock it ups. We've taken tennis lock it ups. We've taken first half college basketball. Exactly. College lacrosse. By the way, how's Merrimack doing right now?
I don't know. They were hanging in there. Though. They looked like they were fighting.
Got it. Okay. I hope so at the very least.
Yeah, them and Vermont and Duke are playing. We got all sorts of sports. We got you guys covered. Do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I want you. Okay, here's the thing. How many do you have? Do you only have one?
Just one. It's a low key day outside the Pro Bowl. It's not a huge college basketball day.
Yeah, but I know that okay, I'll tell you what. I'll start, right? I'm going back to the well here. I think we can catch him still on this downswing. I'm waiting for it to pop back up. I thought it was the right play. Still, I stand by it last time out, although it did not hit. We're still getting a good return here, plus money. I got him at plus 138 to go over. I'm not even stretching this thing to a 5+ or an alt number, staying at Anthony Edwards over 3.5 threes today at home against Detroit. I know there's a smaller window there with the blowout factor happening, but again, catching him in that one specific market on the downswing about to pop up. The volume is there, as you know. We've talked about this guy a bunch of times. I tell you what, full unit on that, half unit because I can't help myself on 5+ at 320. Lock it up.
Fair enough. I know you've been on that. It's been a macro buy of yours. I'll head to OddsShopper after this. I'll take a look and I'll probably jump on with you.
I love it.
Oh, Merrimack lost by 1. That's all right.
It's not all right. I had him on the money line.
I took the 4.5 goals. So
that wasn't the lock it up that we got on the OddsShopper channel.
It's all right. That was a solid call by our community. That's the best in the business. I'm going to take a shot here. This is definitely a risk. I'm going to college basketball. 6:00 tonight, Houston, Cincinnati. Pretty intense game. It's just a 133 total. And that's because of Houston's defense. They're like 300th in possessions per game. They're an extremely tough team to go against, but Cincinnati is also very strong defensively, top 30 per KenPom. I'm going to take Cincinnati and take the 6.5. You can find out there. You got to lay minus 115. You can find 6 at minus 105 as well. Houston's a really good team, and I respect them. They've won 11 straight, but they are going to be on the road here. Low scoring game, methodical. They've had a lot of somewhat close, victories in conference lately. I think Cincinnati can give them a little trouble. Certainly not as talented as this Cougars team. There's no doubt about it, but Cincinnati's 1, 4, or 5. Like all teams, they're much stronger at home. You're going to give me 6.5 in a game that might be played in the 60s or even 50s. I think Cincinnati hangs around, covers that number.
It's not bad. I got him 105 here in PA at 6. Could push it, but why on that return? You want to throw a half unit on them winning the first half outright?
I might look at that. I have to see what the numbers are. I don't think it's crazy to think that Cincinnati actually wins the game now.
Yeah. And again, I think that would be more about establishing a lead and holding on, right? As opposed to battling back down 10 or 12.
Yeah, this is a game. If you get behind Houston, you can just forget it.
Absolutely. All right, Ben, we are out of here. Coming up, of course, we have a lot of content here, getting you ready, geared up for the Pro Bowl. And it begins with Eric, Savoca, Gajewski. They're all here hanging out. So why don't you one more time just remind everybody, we have so much content coming up this week, a bunch of content popping off on the OddsShopper channel, from written to live to VOD stuff.
Yeah, again, we have you covered all week, from VODs, betting, DFS, some of the largest contests around, and we're going to have you covered from Yahoo, our sponsor of this show, to DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever you got it. And hockey, man, don't worry about it. You got a full hour of Pro Bowl. You will get your fill coming up next. I know we talked a little Super Bowl and a little college basketball, but This is the place to be if you need Pro Bowl information. The boys have you covered coming right here.
Absolutely, man. And look, you'll be happier when Anthony Edwards hits 5 threes.
I will.
You win on the Pro Bowl anyway. So we've done our job here. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for playing along with us. We appreciate you all. Again, you have a full hour's worth of Pro Bowl DFS content coming your way right now. Thanks to Jordan for producing with us, and we'll see you. Have a great week.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Oh my goodness. We are going to talk a little NFL Pro Bowl here on a Sunday afternoon. I'm Eric Lindquist. This show will be sponsored by Yahoo. I'm excited to be talking about it. It's fun to have something different. In years past, this has been very, very profitable. Hashtag roster tight ends. But we're going to get to all of that here, guys. Let's get to it. It's the normal panel for a Sundays. The family's back together. That's Matthew Gajewski. That's Matt Savoca, the law firm of Gajewski and Savoca. Let's start with you, Mr. Savoca. How you doing? At Draftaholic on Twitter.
Hey, thrilled to be back. Thanks for holding down the fort last week as I was out of town. And now we're back and ready to talk maybe the most exciting slate of the entire football season. If you are not geared up for Pro Bowl DFS, what are you even living for? What's this all been about? I mean, I don't know what else to say. This is the game. No, actually, in all seriousness, there's 156 votes in our poll right now. The poll question is, which sport has the best all-star game? And the NBA, which just recently changed its format, is winning right now at 59%. So if that doesn't tell you these leagues need to change things up, I don't know what else does.
Well, there's no kickoffs today. That's exciting. They're going to try some different stuff for the Pro Bowl. Yay. Woo. Kind of like football. We shall see. Matt Gajewski, how you doing, my dude?
Doing great. Got a nice Matthew at the beginning, the intro here. Only my brother and my mom and dad call me Matthew. It was a little bit weird there, but at least we can gamble on the Pro Bowl. We know that football's king, and gambling in DFS, it's made preseason DFS fun. It's going to make Pro Bowl DFS fun. So man, the game itself might not be that exciting, but because we can put some action on the line, I'm pretty excited.
Your name's Matthew, though, right? That's what your parents named you? Okay, because my parents named my little brother Steven, and I'm the only person who calls him Steven. Everybody else calls him Steve. And I'm just always confused. I'm just like, what's the problem here? It's your freaking name. He's like, call me Steve. No, I will not. Your name is Steven.
That's what it's like for me, too. That's what it's like my brother and my parents. And then I'm Matt to everyone else.
Yeah, you're also talking to two Matts, like two people with the most common male name in the United States, it feels like, especially in our age group. So we're just we need a little bit of control over this name, a little bit.
Yeah, well, you guys also go contrarian on the back end. Gajewski, Savoca, those are strong, powerful contrarian plays, definitely in the last name department. Guys, let's get to it. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. The guys did a great job getting everything started here talking. We're not talking Super Bowl here in this portion. We're going to have plenty of time to be doing that on the front end, this entire week leading up to next Sunday. Should be fun out here in LA, the Super Bowl. That is the Rams and Bengals. I don't think you need to be told that. I think you need to be told, though, how we're going to be handling this Pro Bowl. So smash that like button so we can do some great work for you here. There is an article posted on the main page by Nolan Kelly. One of the guys here at Awesemo does an amazing job, not just content, but coordinating everything for every one of us here, making sure that we're on top of our game, that we're in the right places when we need to be, and organizing this shit show that can be Awesemo.com from time to time. So he has an article, though, up on Awesemo.com right now that kind of lays out exactly everything you need to know about previous winners, the top 7 scorers from the 2020 through 2017 Pro Bowl. Obviously, last year didn't have one. So we're looking at this being back. Should be enjoyable. But rule number 1 in his page, and it's something that I feel like for years, Matt Gajewski, I've been doing when it comes to the Pro Bowl because it has been profitable in the past, roster tight ends.
Yeah, this is the talking point all week. So I almost wonder if this is going to be an edge that might be a little dried up at this point. Kind of once these hit mainstream media, and we saw this with the preseason too. Once the information gets a little better, people realize what the edge is, how long is it the edge. But I do think there is still reasons to roster tight ends outside of the reason that people just weren't doing it enough. It's not a position that has as many players. And like preseason DFS, our main focus with the Pro Bowl is playing time. So if there's only 2 tight ends that are going to see snaps for each of these rosters, there's a plethora of receivers. So that is just taking a more concentrated potential target share and snap share, which is something we should always be trying to highlight in these specialty games, whether it be preseason or in this case, the Pro Bowl. So tight ends, even if they are a little more owned, I'm going to be taking a large stand on them and trying to roster them frequently.
Yeah, Matt, we've been having great success in the preseason, starting with that Steelers game where it was an absolute smash fest. But Matt Savoca, welcome to the family. Welcome to this game should be bonkers, and we are just looking for dudes on the field. Your research, where have you kind of led as far as tight ends in the Pro Bowl and anything else that really sticks out to you looking at previous results?
Yeah, I think the tight end position is absolutely somewhere where we're just going to see ownership concentrate around these top 4 players, those obvious 2 on both the NFC and the AFC here. But that doesn't mean that the ceiling for these wide receivers, especially both sides of the ball, just absolutely stacked at wide receiver. They can't have huge scores. So really what I'm really doing with my roster construction is spreading out my ownership. So my ownership, simply because there are less tight ends overall, is coalescing around those 4 players. But it doesn't mean I don't think there's a ceiling for players like Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Deebo Samuel, even Stephon Diggs, Deontay Johnson. I really like today. It's just that because there are more of them, I have less overall ownership of them.
All right. Well, we're going to go position by position because that's what we do here on this show. But I wanted to kind of on the onset talk a little bit of strategy. That's what we're doing here on the front end of the show. Otherwise, it's a regular football game. No kickoffs. They're going to be experimenting with that. I don't really think that matters to anybody here. Maybe the likes of a Tyreek Hill won't get a uncontested 90-yard touchdown return, even though it seems like nobody's going to go out there and try to get hurt or do anything ridiculous. So that seems to be the way these games are played. But before I get into the quarterback position, Matt Savoca, anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, not really here. I do take some flyers on fullbacks. Like I'm going to have a few Kyle Juszczyk flyers here just because they get wacky. They do crazy things. And as Matt and I were talking about in the strategy show on Thursday, you just need one wheel route at the 5-yard line for Kyle Juszczyk to pay off there.
Yeah, Matt Savoca, anything else that you kind of want to... Oh, sorry. Matt Gajewski. See, I knew it was going to happen. Jordan Klein. Oh, Eric screwed up already. Matt Gajewski. Anything else you want to talk about with strategy? I love you. Don't hurt me.
Yeah, I think we hit it for the most part, the overarching stuff I want to look at. And I'm sure we'll get into more of the position by position things. One last point is this slate doesn't really have a lot of salary restrictions. There are salaries associated with these players, of course, but we know the playing time for the most part between a lot of the receivers, the tight ends, and the backs is going to be the same. You're not going to have Jonathan Taylor, who's the most expensive player, dominate snaps. He's most likely going to see a similar number of snaps to the lowest price running back, like the James Connors, the Nick Chubbs. Their roles are largely going to be the same. So this is a slate where I think you could leave upwards of like 20K on the board and still have a live lineup. So that leaving salary, I think, is going to be something I'm trying to do a lot of here, with the differences in projection being minimal. But we know people like to max out their salary. So I think there could be an ownership edge.
I love that note. I love that note because, again, this is the strategy aspect of it. You could legitimately play 0 quarterbacks in a lineup. You could legitimately play 3 of them. You could do so many different things that kind of make sense. You really just have to say, what does that look like, and build the lineup as such. Really kind of a free-for-all. Should be fun. Let's get into it here at the quarterback position here. NFC. That was really well done, Eric. NFC and AFC quarterbacks that we have listed here. Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes from the AFC, along with Lamar Jackson, who I'm curious if he's going to be doing much of anything here. I don't think he's going to be playing in this game, so I'm not even going to how he's not playing. Okay, good. I just wanted to double check. I'm just listing him off.
DraftKings has him listed as questionable, and he opted out. So it's just an error on DraftKings.
Okay, well then F them. Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, and then we got Mac Jones hanging down there as well, I guess, from the AFC as well. Last NFC guy, Kirk Cousins, my boy, my favorite quarterback on the board today. It's just because why not? Guys, let's start with Matt Savoca. Who is your favorite quarterback of the grouping?
It's Kyler Murray. On the AFC side, I guess it's Herbert, but honestly, I don't care about quarterback today, in the sense that I think that there's a huge talent pool at the top. And then if you're playing a player like Mac Jones or Kirk Cousins, you're obviously being a little bit contrarian. I do think that with the way that this game goes, we really have a ceiling of 150 yards and 1 touchdown, 2 touchdowns if we're getting really, really lucky. And one thing that we have noticed is that running quarterbacks don't necessarily run as much, but I think that might actually work in our favor. Players like Kyler Murray are still throwing to the best receiving core that they've ever thrown to here. And this game tends to have a ton of touchdowns. They don't really settle for drives. They either completely stall out or go for it all. So I don't really have more than 20. I'm looking at DraftKings right now, 24% of any quarterback here, but I have over 20% of 3 different quarterbacks.
All right. And quarterbacks, again, they're very safe. I feel like the floor is pretty much there for these guys, but This is PPR we're talking about on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think they become very interesting. And I'm playing a little bit more over there just because I think it might be a little bit closer to being able to build like 2 or 3 of these quarterbacks in and prioritizing them. Again, I don't see people playing a lot more than a quarter. 2 touchdowns would be a very, very large outlier perhaps, but there is a 63.5 total on this game. So we are expecting points either in some capacity. So Matt Gajewski, quarterbacks, where are you kind of leaning at the top end?
So in kind of turn with my strategy to leave salary on the table, I'll be paying down a lot of quarterbacks. We can talk about the differences in talent. I think they're pretty clear between, you want to isolate like the AFC, for example, looking at Mac Jones versus Justin Herbert and Mahomes. I don't think there's any question at this point in their careers, Herbert and Mahomes are the more talented passers, but I don't see their opportunity being largely different. And just because of the raw talent gap we have between these players, I think Mac Jones is going to come in wildly underowned comparatively. So players like Mac Jones and Kirk Cousins are actually players I want to take a stand on, and I want to be overweight. And it's not a talent thing. It's literally, I just think they're going to be underowned and throwing roughly the same amount of times as the stud quarterback. So give me Mac Jones, give me Kirk Cousins. I'll be taking the cheaper guys, leaving salary on the table and trying to play the ownership edge.
Yeah, I love that. Going to MLB, and again, I get to cover every sport here. I'm a lucky kid, but like MLB All-Star Game talked about that. I played all of the reserves, guys who didn't start because they see an ownership dip. People just aren't as secure. And if that game ever goes to extra innings, you're just raking in cash. Plus, if it gets to like a 9th inning where the bottom of the 9th where a team is at bat, they might get 2 or 3 at bats as opposed to the guys where it's like, yeah, there's no starter who's going to go the distance unless it's like a Cal Ripken kind of situation. In the NBA as well, non-starters definitely seeing a little bit of an ownership dip because it's unpredictable to know what those minutes are going to look like. I'm willing to embrace that here too. I love that quarterback call. Matt Savoca, just for game theory aspects. So on FanDuel, I might roster an MVP quarterback. And again, that's a might, mainly because, you might have that outlier type 2 touchdown performance. Are you looking on DraftKings where not PPR, only 4 points for a touchdown as opposed to 6 for a receiver or a running back? Would you play a single share of any quarterback in the captain spot?
I technically do, but I absolutely understand your point. I have no more than 3% of one quarterback at the captain spot. It is just not a place I'm going. That's not the way I'm differentiating my lineups. And while I do agree with what Matt said, that the opportunity is the same for the contrarian quarterbacks like Mac Jones, I do have a couple shots at these superstars in the captain spot just kind of going off. I know it's a low probability outcome.
All right. And then same question to you, Matt Gajewski, and then we'll move on from quarterback because I don't think there's a lot else here. We really need to get to the pass catchers as fast as possible.
Yeah, I X'd out quarterbacks in the captain spot. And it's like Savoca's reasoning is entirely plausible. But again, I'll liken this to preseason. This is a playing time thing, and all these players are going to be splitting time. The way that these contests are scored, PPR specifically on DraftKings, quarterback touchdowns are worth 5. Your pass catchers and runners are worth 6. And then you have the PPR bonuses for anyone catching passes. So in a limited sample where these guys don't have full snap shares, there's just a higher likelihood that a receiver potentially outscores a quarterback, a tight end outscores a quarterback. So I'll be banking on that here. And unlike preseason, we don't have these guys running. So sometimes in preseason, you want to take a stand on like a Tyler Huntley was a really good example in the preseason because he was going to play a decent amount, but he was going to run. Kyler's not going to run today. He doesn't want to get hurt. None of these guys want to get hurt. You might see him chuck it downfield to players that aren't really trying and you get a big pass. But I think outside of like a bomb connection for one of these guys, their path to the captain's pretty narrow.
Yeah. Looking at the rules also from Nolan Kelly, we just have a number of quarterbacks where they just from 2017 until 2020, quarterbacks combined to rush for 3 total yards in the Pro Bowl. 3. Just thought that was a massive stat to kind of throw into the mix there. Let's get ourselves over to the running back position because there's still a lot to talk about there because you got to roster some of these guys, and we'll try to figure out the one that might get a touch or two. But with Daytona right around the corner, we're offering right now Awesemo Plus NASCAR packages for less than $2. Yes, $2. $70 for a full year of Awesemo Plus NASCAR. That's literally just $2 right now. The pass gives you driver projections, ownership projections, top drivers tool that gives you an edge in all of the NASCAR DFS stuff you might enjoy. And I'm telling you, it's such a fun sweat. Now, It can be very stressful, as you might already know. If you played some NASCAR in the pandemic because you had to, yeah, I absolutely had to. I was just losing my mind. You go from winning $0 to winning it all to back to somewhere in the middle. But I'm telling you, it's a really fun sweat. This offer is valid through February 20th. So go take advantage of it. Season log is $70. That's promo code Green Flag. And again, less than $2 per race. That is going to be what that package ends up being. So you want to take advantage of Green Flag, all caps, one word. Go check it out. It's some of the best content you're ever going to find in the NASCAR space here. My guys, let's get going to the running back position. And thank you so much. What a lovely graphic there. Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass. Oh, is he hat tipping himself? No, he's just adjusting it. I thought he was doing like the
I did
respect thing to himself. Didn't it look like that?
It did.
You're so vain. You probably think this show is about you, don't you? You're so vain, Jordan Klein. That's Carole King for everybody's enjoyment. Matt Gajewski, do you know Carole King?
No.
Okay, cool. Good talk.
Is Carole King a man or a woman?
It's a woman. One of the greatest songwriters of all time, in fact.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to do a quick wiki search.
I can't with you. Let's go to the running back position, y'all. We've got Jonathan Taylor in the mix here. Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, James Conner, Nick Chubb, Kyle Juszczyk, and Patrick Ricard. We're talking fullbacks, baby. We're talking guys that I feel more inclined to they're going to get the goal line work than most any other situation, period, because it's fun. And people are like, Kyle Juszczyk got a touchdown. And that's kind of how this position works out in Pro Bowls. Matt Gajewski, favorite running back on the board, go.
Yeah, I'm looking for the guys that are more gadgety type players. So Kamara is the guy I would rank the highest, and he happens to be the most expensive. But, like Savoca and I were talking about this earlier. When they are running the rare run plays, which let me tell you, can be very rare in this game. Like for reference, in 2020, the NFC team ran the ball 4 times for a cumulative of 21 yards. So that's in the realm of possibility. You might just see these guys play glorified 7-on-7 pitch and catch football. That's one worry. So in those situations, who's benefiting? Alvin Kamara is a guy that can line up in the slot. He's used creatively within his own offense. We don't know that that's going to happen here, but if I'm taking shots on a position with a really low probability of success, and not just even to be like in the optimal lineup, like this is a position that's probably not going to be in the captain. And more than likely, there's not even a single running back in the optimal lineup. So what is the path to them getting there? I think it's catching balls. Juszczyk is another guy that fits this mold. He's not technically a running back, but he plays that hybrid fullback pass catcher role. We've actually seen him perform well in the Pro Bowl before, so it's nice to have that under our belt already. But overall, it's probably a position for me to avoid. I want to ask you a question though, Eric, because Savoca and I talked about this on Wednesday about the goal line stuff. Because you like theoretically would think James Conner is the goal line back, or like whoever the player may be, it's going to be different for each team. But we kind of theorized that maybe these guys just like get whole series to themselves, like this series is James Conner's series. And if they get in the red zone, James Conner stays on. But if it's another back and they get in the red zone, like I don't know necessarily that James Conner is going to be the guy that they put on the field during red zone. You know what I mean? So what's your read on that?
Well, my read is just looking at 2 fullbacks that have to are going to be on the field more than likely in like goal line packages, no matter what. And that makes one of them per team. I think taking shots on the likes of the fullbacks more so feels like it's definitely not going to be a good thing, but Kyle Juszczyk's also shown some pass catching ability in the past. He's $1,000 on DraftKings. Like he's $1,000. I can play everybody, every pass catcher. I mean, if I want to play Devontae Adams, if I want to play Deebo Samuel, or I guess not Deebo, Justin Jefferson, if I want to play Alvin Kamara, if I want to play all of those guys together, Kyle Juszczyk is going to be on the field a lot more than the average dude for the NFC. So for me, I'm kind of looking at that as something where like in the past in Pro Bowls, they've shown a propensity to want to give guys like this carries at the goal line to say, thank you for being so good at your job during a regular season. They are grinders. They're the ones that are out there. How many times does Kyle Juszczyk get a goal line carry? I will say not often enough for his liking. So maybe this is just a spot where we kind of overinvest in those guys. What do you think about that, Matt Savoca?
Well, Kyle Juszczyk is my highest owned running back on the DraftKings.
What?
So
okay.
That's
a great segue.
That's
I didn't
how I'm
try
feeling
that.
about that. Yeah, that we set that up. Now there is only one running back that I have any shares at the captain spot, and that's Alvin Kamara. And it's really because I think he could catch a few passes and become part of that pass catching core that we know has pretty high upside in these Pro Bowl games, at least historically. At least he has the highest likelihood. Going back to what you said, Matt, I kind of do think that I agree with what you kind of posited on Thursday, which is that there really are going to be just having running backs in for a series of drives. They're not going to be worrying about a goal line back. And if they do, I kind of agree with Eric. They're going to just give it to a fullback. So that led me to actually more Kyle Juszczyk. I have a little bit of every single running back, but I have between 5 and 10% of all of them. The only player over 10%, as we said, is Juszczyk. I thought Ricard was playing Nolan Kelly. Asks in chat. Maybe I'm wrong here. I know he's
projected for 0. We have him projected for 0. I mean, for me, it was more talking about Juszczyk. That's the guy that I'm on as well, mainly because he's a beast. Patrick Ricard, his status. Again, we have him projected for 0, and I have to be feeling that that's something that is not just done that way because let me go through Twitter and scour
I think there's nothing that I've seen about him missing the game. I think it's because he's just a fullback and he doesn't get carries. Mm-hmm. And like the projections are guesses, literally pure guesses. Mm-hmm. We have nothing to go on. We are guessing how many opportunities guys are going to get. Pure guesses.
Yep. But that's the thing is that this is game theory. This is a lot of what we do with DFS anyway. And we're trying to find some positive leverage on guys. I feel like rostering fullbacks at $1,000 on 800 when people aren't going to be leaving 15,000 on the table like they probably should in a game like this. Now, the way that the salaries work out, it's made to be a joke. It's made to not work out. On FanDuel, I think there's actually not an entire opportunity cost, but at least the quarterbacks are priced in a way where obviously on a half point PPR, it's going to just set up a little bit differently over on that site. But I'm with Matt Savoca, where I just think the fullback position makes sense. I didn't see anything about Patrick Ricard being out. I hand-built a lot of my lineups coming in, but go ahead. What were you going to say, Matt?
Yeah, if that's the case, I think what Nolan is saying that his projection probably should not be 0, specifically not be 0. It probably is a median projection around 1 or 2, but still, you could still take shots with him because of the same narratives we just talked about. They say, congratulations for doing a great job as a fullback. And Pat Ricard has actually been utilized in multiple Kyle Juszczyk light ways in the past. Certainly not to the same extent, but not to the point where we should be projecting 0 if he's on the field.
Matt Gajewski, anything else? Yeah, 0 is definitely in the realm. Yeah, if he's dinged up and not going to play or not good on the field, then definitely 0. But in the event that he's able to go out there for a snap or 2 at the goal line, that is what you're looking for. Is that going to be enough in a PPR where there's going to be guys who catch a lot of passes? Ricard, probably not for me, but I think Kyle Juszczyk definitely going to be somebody that I sprinkle in here. Anything else for you from the running back position whatsoever, Matt Gajewski?
I don't think so. I think everybody else outside of maybe Kamara is going to be overowned. So for me, there's not a lot of interest at the top of the position when you can just get so much more opportunity and meaningful opportunity from the receivers in the price range. Like no reason for me to play like Jonathan Taylor or some of these expensive guys.
Matt Savoca, anything else for you?
That's it. That's it for me.
Oh, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Guys, Yahoo, sponsor this entire season, not just today for the NFL Pro Bowl, but for the entire season. These Sunday shows have been brought to you by them, and it is the best time to go jump over there and play in their Super Bowl contest. They even have the $20K AFC NFC baller that's about to fill up. Just 32 spots left, $15 to get in, $20 flat pricing for pretty much everybody down the line. You could play just about anybody that you want there as long as you're mixing in. There's a tier of $15 players, like these running backs specifically. There's a tier of like these mid-range $18 guys. It's a really fun contest to get in. So if you've got a couple minutes here, 30 spots left, jump over to Yahoo and go play in that. But I want you guys signing up for the Super Bowl. They have a massive, ridiculous $20 contest that they're running, $150K to first, 55,000 entries, $150K to first, $1 million total prize pool. That is ginormous. And that is going to be the best contest you can get in for your money in the entire industry. And why? Because it's only a 10% management fee. We're talking about a 6.5% difference between the main tournaments on FanDuel and DraftKings over on Yahoo. So take advantage of that. That is helping your money go a lot further. Also, right now, if you sign up and you have not had a chance to play at Yahoo, deposit $10 or more, Play in any paid contest, and you're going to get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Everything we offer behind the paywall, every single sport, not just the NFL that you know and love, but the NBA, which is in full swing for us here. We've got the PGA, NHL streets have been awesome. Obviously, All-Star break this weekend, but getting back into it on Monday. We've got PGA content. We got MMA content, everything you want just by signing up, depositing $10 and playing in anything that they have over at Yahoo. Check out that Super Bowl contest. I'm telling you, that is something I'm going to prioritize. I think you should too. So if you're playing Showdown for that, that is the best one you can do. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo, but do it through Yahoo. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship, of course, of the NFL Live Before Lock show all season long. We had such a nice super chat. And I mean, it doesn't get better than somebody, Sean Preston, coming in. This show better be back next year. You three are great together. And I mean that. And I want my Grape 4 Loco shotgun, LOL. I'm assuming he's not talking to me or Matt Savoca. Matt Gajewski, did you promise people a Grape 4 Loco shotgun?
I promised a shotgun for sure. And maybe the Super Bowl at the very end. Like we're on that, correct?
We are.
I think that's got to be the time. That's the last hurrah. Not obviously during like a meaningful part of the show, but I don't know.
Smash the like button for the heart attack that is incoming. Also, he's going to get tased. Maybe we can get a hold of your buddy who can tase you. You take a shot of 4 Loco and we'll see if you live on stream.
We should not do that. If we get the okay on the 4 Loco, I'll do it on the Super Bowl.
We took it to 100 so fast and I love it.
How did Awesemo get to 1 million subscribers? Well, the most viral YouTube video of all time. Oh, man. Well, that's dark. Not as dark.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you, Sean.
Sean, now I know his name. I'm going to go to the facebook.com. Do you have a Facebook?
Me?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, say that again? Oh, Sean Preston. See, that's ridiculous. Okay, he's listed as on the IR there on DK. Ooh, that might be an edge. Patrick Ricard. I'm on
DK
Patrick
didn't
Ricard
update their
watch.
injuries.
Oh, I love it so much. God, do I just change all my exposures last second while we're on stream? 31 minutes here to go. Let's get to, and I kind of put them all together because they kind of have to be the receiver position.
Pat Ricard's Instagram. He's definitely in Vegas.
This is some real preseason vibes.
I
figure
just
out who's
love it.
playing. I love this, man. I love this.
What's he doing in Vegas? Is he in pads or is he in a like poolside?
No joke. It looks like he's doing some sort of ad for Reacher on Prime Video.
That's not.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh,
he's
my
in
God.
his Pro Bowl jersey in the previous picture. It does look like he's playing.
Oh, that's so incredible.
Oh, that's
man.
amazing.
All right, well, let's get to it. Wide receiver and tight end. We're going to clump them together because I think they need to be. We need to talk about them kind of as all together. Now, tight ends. Now, from what I understand about the Pro Bowl, they're required to have a tight end on the field the entire time. Correct, Matt Savoca?
I think that's the case.
It is correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes tight ends obviously somebody that's going to be prioritized, but maybe that means some wide receivers go a little bit underowned, and I don't really see that being the case on a site like DraftKings. Maybe on FanDuel, we shall see, but I'm looking at the likes of Tyreek Hill, who can always be a speed demon, avoided a lot of injury there. I mean, he played more games, and maybe this is just like a personal bias in my brain where Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce just got off of playing last week. And maybe they don't play as much as some of these other guys, but maybe that's just kind of a personal bias that I have. I'm going to Stephon Diggs quite a bit from the AFC or from the AFC. I'm going to Deontay Johnson, who can definitely be somebody to help move the ball downfield and be just a PPR monster if need be in a game like this. Where are you kind of leaning at the wide receiver position, Matt Savoca?
So we did not talk pre-show, but my highest owned player on both FanDuel and DraftKings at the wide receiver position is Justin Jefferson for the NFC. And on the AFC, it's Stephon Diggs. And I certainly have plenty of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. In fact, I have almost identical percentages of Hill and Kelce on both DraftKings and FanDuel, both over 25%. One thing I am doing in Fantasy Cruncher is if I do play Deontay Johnson, I am downgrading Travis Kelce and Hunter Renfrow a little bit. I just feel like only two out of these three can really hit because they kind of take away from each other in the slot. Now, it is great that you're going to have tight ends on the field every time. But these ceiling probabilities, as I said in the beginning of the show, for these wide receivers are still decently high. You can still have a traditional stat line, a traditional great stat line for these wide receivers, something like 6 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown. That's in the range of outcomes. So for me, I really like Jefferson. I think that just the projection compared to salary-based expectation is great. And I saw the same thing as you. I don't know if I want to lean so heavily on players that played last week, like Samuel, Hill, and Kelsey.
Yeah, Juszczyk's the only guy that I think I'm making an exception. It's because he's the only guy on his team who plays his position. So I think that kind of makes sense. I also think that in a game that is meant to be just kind of a joke as it is when it comes to just in terms of the physicality, it's just a different kind of game. You're not going to see hard hits of years past. You're not going to see anybody going out trying to do anything ridiculous in order to really make a statement or something like that. I think it's going to be pretty, whimsical. And I think Kyle Juszczyk would kind of be a guy to be fine no matter what coming off of last week. But Matt Gajewski, wide receivers, I guess Savoca and I are on the same page. Diggs and Jefferson, maybe it's just me wanting to play my Minnesota personal bias as well. But where are you kind of looking at the wide receiver position?
Jefferson makes sense. You get that little connection with Cousins when he'll be on the field, presumably together for some plays at least. I don't know how many, but this is sort of how I'm treating the running back position, the quarterback position. I'll be paying down a little more than I'm paying up, and it's nothing against Justin Jefferson, nothing against Debo, some of these higher expensive receivers, more expensive receivers. It's just, I think they're going to be more owned because there's no issues with salary. It's pretty easy to max it out. So, like the general public building lineups, I imagine that's how they're going to play it. And obviously a player like Justin Jefferson's a lot more attractive than Hunter Renfrow, just from the way he plays, the usage we saw all season, the splash playability that Jefferson has. But at the same time, again, I don't really see the opportunity being drastically different for Jefferson versus Renfrow. So paying down is a situation or is an approach that I'm going to be taking. I love Diggs. I love CD Lamb. And then Renfrow being as cheap as he is, I think he makes a lot of sense too. So that's kind of where I'm going. But Savoca and I had a debate about this too, like how we think these players might be used in the Pro Bowl. And my kind of general theory was that these separators might be players that get thrown to more, like our crisp route runners, just because there's not a lot of familiarity unless you do have the Tyreek Mahomes connection in your lineup or the Kirk Cousins Jefferson connection. So I'm also kind of just trying to play these guys that are like slot receivers, underneath guys, easy pitch and catch opportunities that could be open because they don't have any rapport. We might just see them throw it to the open receiver. I don't know. That's a small edge potentially, but we're splitting hairs.
All right. I just think that looking at the bottom end of these guys, hard for me to want to roster a lot of Deebo Samuel today, coming off of the amount of workload that he had towards the end of this last season, playing glorified running back. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but coming off of last week, he's the one guy that I'm kind of shying away from at the top of the wide receiver pool. I want to go right back to you one quick second, Matt Gajewski, because you're the projection guy for all of our college sports, college football, college basketball. If you haven't checked out his stuff there, you need to. It's as good as you will ever find, period. End of story. The guy's an absolute boss when it comes to college basketball projections, but this is kind of a college, just a DFS projection kind of question. So somebody just asked, Carlos Manzo, are the ownership projections from FC today quote, legit? And I think that this is a great talking point because we need to talk range of outcomes, how unpredictable this game is. And I think you're the right guy to ask first.
So this is about the ownership projections?
Yeah. So we have ownership projections and it's basically off of a name recognition or an implied workload scale, who might score the touchdowns. We're kind of giving bumps to guys based on what their presumed workload's going to be. And that's kind of where you're getting their projections. And, obviously it's very limited. I mean, 17.11 for Tyreek Hill. I mean, is that something that you're looking at in terms of are these legit projections? What are we kind of doing to be able to build those out?
Yeah, they're definitely legit projections. Ownership projections largely are going to stem from the overall projections. Guys that project well are going to be owned. It's just how this game works. Rarely do you find a diamond in the rough who projects super well that nobody's on. And this is the case here. It's just that we're guessing more with the projections to begin with because we don't know what the roles are. So I think there's a little more room for volatility, which is why my personal strategy has been to leave more money on the table and take some of these under-owned guys. But ultimately, like the projections are solid. We have data on these players through a whole season now. And the only thing that's really changing is we don't know how hard they're going to try. So there is a little more guesswork, but definitely legit.
All right. And now we're heading back over to you, Matt Savoca here. I just want to talk about the wide receiver position, kind of rounding this out as well. Who do you think are going to be some of the most, who do you think the pairings are going to be as far as who the quarterback to wide receiver stacks that might make the most sense? I think Cousins and Jefferson is going to be rostered quite a bit. I think we're going to have Mahomes and Hill and Kelsey rostered quite a bit. Is there somebody that you're pairing that's a little bit more differentiated?
I can't say that I really paid a whole lot of attention to stacks this week. I mean, obviously, I want to boost up projections. Like I have a rule in Fantasy Cruncher that when I play a quarterback, particularly at the captain spot, to boost up all pass catchers in their projection. Obviously, we're still playing the correlation game. But in terms of like which specific ones, we've had a lot of people in chat talking about how much salary they're finding on the table for their optimal lineup. There are no salary concerns here. So I'm kind of just having fun with it. Like I'm just imagining Justin Herbert hitting Tyreek Hill in stride, the way that we see Patrick Mahomes do. I don't have any real cares or concerns about which quarterback I get to. I will say for players like Kirk Cousins and specifically Mac Jones, I'm boosting up the underneath players for Mac Jones, like Deontay Johnson, Hunter Renfrow, Travis Kelce. And for Kirk Cousins, I did boost up Justin Jefferson. I do think that's not an unreasonable thing. I don't think this is the most likely outcome here, but we had a couple wildly streaky quarterbacks who are actually representing the NFC this year. We could have Kirk Cousins like kind of not show up with a good game here. Like that's in the range of outcomes. And Russell Wilson really struggled, particularly with deep passing here. So I kind of do have a little bit higher of a floor and ceiling projection for Kyler Murray compared to those other two, just because there is in the range of outcomes, both of those players having a bad game. Not to say that I believe that's going to happen. I just know that it could.
All right, Matt Savoca, Matt Gajewski. Good Lord. See, it's almost like I've never done this before at this point in time. Again, this is kind of the uncertainty because there's so many things I want to talk about this. We have 21 minutes left to build lineups. So start getting something in, get some ideas in there. And obviously, if you're building along with us as we're talking through it, Godspeed to everybody here. But Matt Gajewski, other wide receivers that you might have interest in, because we have some returners at the bottom. And now there will not be kickoffs, but do you think guys like Duvernay, do you think guys like Jakeem Grant might make any kind of a difference in this game at a wide receiver spot?
No, I literally don't even think they get snaps.
Oh, that's cool. Good talk. Matt Savoca, how do you feel about them?
I purposely put them into one lineup, but I had to do it by hand. I mean, I do think it's possible. I think they're going to find ways to put every single person who's suited up for the Pro Bowl onto the field for a couple snaps. And if you get a situation with a player like Duvernay, like if he scores a touchdown, he 100% is in the optimal lineup. And if you have him in your lineup, you're zooming ahead of the field. But I almost view these players like rostering the backup quarterback on a showdown slate. Like you're asking for a 0, but if you don't get it, it's going to look really, really good for you.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's jump to the tight end spot. And now we're going to have some fun here for the next 5-10 minutes. Tight ends that are playing in this game. We have 4 of them. Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce. Now, my favorite of them should not come as a surprise is Kyle Pitts. If I'm not going to feel like George Kittle's going to be as involved coming off of playing last week, same thing goes for the AFC. Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce looking like I want to get to a lot more Mark Andrews. Matt Savoca, are you with me?
So we talked about Kyle Pitts a lot last Thursday when Matt and I talked about this on the strategy show. And I have no salary concerns whatsoever here, especially on DraftKings. I actually don't find myself going to a ton of Kyle Pitts. And Matt made some great points about how it would almost be comical if they are running some sort of base offense. And so they had to have the one tight end in there in line because Kyle Pitts like literally doesn't do that.
He's a wide receiver.
So I do understand that he's essentially another pass catcher. But I do wonder with players like Deebo Samuel and even George Kittle on the field, you're starting to get sort of and Kamara as well. You're starting to get a slot snap squeeze for a player like Pitts. But even though he had a great year and the salary and the projection compared to salary all look appetizing to me, I'm actually not finding the need to get there all that often. I do end up with more George Kittle. On the AFC side, it really is a different story. Like, I have so much Mark Andrews. I have so much Travis Kelce. I don't mind playing both of them. I just know that both of them have like a dozen targets in their range of outcomes here, especially with how much we know one or both will be on the field.
Yeah, Mark Andrews is my favorite player, I think, in the entire game. We saw an absolute abomination of slates towards annihilation. That's the word I was looking for at the end of this season. And I think that just looking at him as a guy that could get peppered multiple times here, Deontay Johnson might be a little bit of a problem for me here for the AFC, but we shall see. I feel pretty confident Mark Andrews will be on the field a lot more than him. So therefore, just give me all the Mark Andrews in the world. Who are your favorite tight ends in priority? Can you rank the four, Matt Gajewski?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm in lockstep with you. It's Pitts, and then Andrews 2. I don't have a strong preference really between Kelce and Kittle, but I think I'll go Kittle just because I think Kelsey's going to be high around, if that makes sense. But to Matt's point on Pitts playing wide receiver, he's basically not a tight end. He just has it in name designation only. I don't see Andrews being all that different. Andrews rarely plays in line himself. So a lot of the snaps these guys should be playing are in the slot. They're out wide. They're actually acting as true receivers. And I don't personally believe they need to have these tight ends in line. So in what has become a glorified 7-on-7 game, I wouldn't be really surprised to see them just like playing 4 wide, 5 wide, just having fun out there, throwing the ball deep against corners that aren't trying, with receivers that are running 75%. Like, that's this game. That's what we're dealing with. You're not going to see Kyle Pitts in line playing a position he doesn't play, trying to grind down blocks for run plays. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. Seth Hader saying what we said a little bit earlier. There's a rule tight end always has to be on the field. We had brought that up on the onset. Good
But
thing.
they don't have to be in line.
They don't have to be in line, though. Yeah, they don't have to like line up in certain formations. They just have to be on the field, period, right?
Yes.
Cool. So that makes it a little bit easier to just kind of justify Kyle Pitts. I'm just going to play a ton of him, playing tons of Mark Andrews. Let's go with that. Also, if you guys haven't had a chance to head over to OddsShopper for NFL this season, I would do that here for the Super Bowl. Coming up here, we're going to have every single prop, every single future, every single game line you could possibly want. Awesemo's projections are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you to help you be profitable. Head to oddshopper.com. We're going to update those throughout the week starting tomorrow. I'm looking forward to all the analysis. There are going to be some funky props. There are going to be some fun things that we can check out. First touchdown to score, winning margin. We have either team to score 3 unanswered. I mean, ridiculous type props that are going to be listed there. Now, all of them are on OddsShopper. Really fun and easy. You can group it by the state that you're in. You can group it by best projected ROI bet. So, you can do that in terms of, oh, well, I want to win the most money. Projected win percentage, if you're playing on other sites where you're just doing prop betting, you just are kind of concerned about getting the win and nothing else on the prop lines. Use those to help you build effective lineups, effective prop cards, everything you could possibly want, all on one site. Head to oddshopper.com. Check it out. All right, guys, we got 2 positions here kind of to cover. We've got the kicker and DST. I don't even really know what to say about defense. So let's start there. Defense, Matt Savoca, any thoughts?
Yeah, I have some really strong thoughts, actually, because the snap shares of all of these players are dwindled because of the superstar talent that they are sharing the field with. Take the snap certainty of the defenses here. Matt, I believe you said there were 9 total interceptions the last time the Pro Bowl was played. And turnovers, excuse me. And the idea that these players, especially if there's like an open field quarterback tackle about to happen, that they want to actually get down and tackle anybody is minimal. I think the odds of a defensive touchdown are higher in a Pro Bowl than they are in a typical regular season game or a playoff game. And so I actually took a stand and I actually put an AFC or NFC defense or captain in every single one of my lineups. I don't know if it's going to be profitable. I'm not saying definitely do that, But that's probably why I'm not getting to players like Kyle Pitts, because I already have that salary differentiating option built into my pool. I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm going to take that certainty on DraftKings. I feel different about kickers because they don't have the same ceiling, but there is absolutely a ceiling for these defenses here today.
Oh, baby. Matt Gajewski, thoughts on defenses for this game? Again, I have a couple shares of these guys scattered amongst it, but maybe it's just me thinking that everybody's going to, in PPR, you're going to need like 10 plus points. Do you see a defense getting, 8 to 10 points in this game?
Yeah, it very well could happen. And Savoca went back 1 year. It goes further. You have 2020, 9 turnovers. You have 2019, 6 turnovers. 2018, 6 turnovers. And that's elevated for sure from just regular season play. And if one of them happens to be a score and you have that in the captain spot at low ownership, you're just printing money. So it's a lot of them are interceptions. And here's the thing. We're playing glorified 7-on-7. These receivers are playing against DBs that aren't trying, but some of the receivers aren't trying themselves. And you have quarterbacks that are going to take chances they don't normally take because it literally doesn't matter. So like a deep shot down the field to Tyreek Hill when he's not open, Tyreek Hill's not going to make the effort to go and get the ball like he normally would. So DB could just end up with an easy interception. And then when defenders, and especially if there is an interception and there's a return, like offensive skill position players that aren't trained to tackle to begin with are not going to try to tackle this guy. So like, just think about how the game is played because it doesn't matter. And there's so little effort on both sides. Like it's just a high scoring game environment. And that also carries over into turnovers.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at kickers and I'm kind of feeling like that's the deal. So for me, Justin Tucker, going back to 2019, he had 10 points in that game. It was a 38 to 33 game. He was 1 for 1. He kicked one over 50. I'm guessing that if you get in a spot where it's, a 55 yarder or 60 yarder, they're absolutely going to let these kickers just have a shot at it no matter what. And that could be really profitable where, obviously in a shorter yardage spot, like a 20, 30 yarder, maybe they just go for it every single time on 4th down. But I'm looking at kickers, going back to some of their exposure here. Jake Elliott, I know, I don't think he was not in a Pro Bowl here in previous years, but Justin Tucker, that 2019 deal, 10 fantasy points. Now, Justin Tucker, best kicker in the game, feel pretty good AFC building those into lineups. And we'll talk about overall lineup construction to round it out because Abel Ramos brings up a great question. I want to talk about 5 1s and 4 2s, kind of how we're planning to build these out. But how do you look at the kickers, Matt Gajewski, on this slate?
I view them similar to defense in that when they have opportunities, they're not shared. So all of the kicking duties are going to fall on these two gentlemen. It's just, does the game environment lend itself to a lot of scoring? And what is the ceiling of these players? Typically, the scoring is pretty volatile, but sometimes they do score a lot of points. And that can be really profitable for kickers because, again, it's not like these opportunities are concentrated to skill position players. So if they do score 30 points, it's very unlikely that a player has multiple touchdowns and someone breaks the slate. So who contributes on every single one of those touchdowns? It's the kicker. And then in low scoring game environments, their points are worth more if they do happen to kick field goals. Like Savoca said, I do view the defense as having a slightly higher ceiling just because of the turnover propensity of the Pro Bowl overall. But I'm going to be playing a ton of kickers. They're very safe.
I'm playing a Justin Tucker in the captain spot on FanDuel because if
I
it
think
happens,
you can do that.
I want to do it. Like 13, 12 points. I think that's in play. Not that it's the most likely outcome, but also nobody else is going to do it. And I feel pretty comfortable in saying that, I'm not playing 150 over on FanDuel or anything, but in this allotment of lineups, I think there's certain constructions where, you don't have to worry about defense over on FanDuel. So I'm more inclined to take that shot on him and Jake Elliott over there. On DK, where you do have the defenses, it's just such an interesting way to go about building some 5-1s where you have the kicker defense and maybe go that direction. But let's go back over to you, Matt Savoca. You had kind of started alluding to it in the chat there, but I want you to tell the people, Abel Ramos, $1.99. How many QBs in lineup, ? And RB pet lineup, ?
I think he meant RBs per lineup, but
I know that's
RB
what I
pet
thought it was
lineup
too.
I think it's a fun label. It's like, all right, I played 4 running backs, all of them, because it's contrarian. No, we're not doing an RB pet lineup, but I did make a rule in Fantasy Cruncher, and I'm not saying this is a necessity, but we're just going off historical trends here. I made a rule where you could have at most one running back per lineup. I made no such rule, and I made no maximum or minimum 4 quarterbacks here. I do think most likely we see 1 to 2 quarterbacks, but 0 and 3 are absolutely in the range of outcomes here. So I'm just leaving the optimizer to do its thing, and I'll put some randomness in there, see what happens. So in that regard, I just think that you don't have to make those types of granular rules. But when we do have these historical trends, I just want to lean on them and then take a stand with the defenses. That's as contrarian as you need to be.
Matt Gajewski, any thoughts about how many quarterbacks per lineup?
Yeah, on the running backs thing first, I don't really think you need to make a rule. They project so poorly that you shouldn't be getting a lot of them to begin with. So I think when they come up naturally, it probably makes more sense. But maybe if you just want to be completely sure, like you're taking a definite stand on the runners, but otherwise, like I didn't get a lot of them. And then for QBs, I view them as higher floor, lower ceiling options just because of the way these sites are scored. But ultimately, there's still players that have the ball in their hands every single play. They're going to be throwing the ball a ton in this game. So it's pretty safe to target them. Interceptions are minuscule. As far as negative plays go, they're barely -1 point is nothing on these slates, essentially. So probably not captaining them a ton, definitely not captaining a ton, but I'm willing to play 2, I think, in any sort of field. I didn't really see myself with anything more than that, but I think you can play multiple, probably just 2.
All right, let's do this because we always do 100 yards and a touchdown. There's 8 minutes to go, and I'm sure some people have come in a little bit later. They're building lineups. They want to be told who to play in some of these lineups. Smash the like button, first of all, because we're about to just give those to you here. But looking forward to this. Sammy Telesco, did I miss a super chat here from something? Let me see. Where did Sammy Telesco go? Let me find this. Here we go. I'm a little late to the party. Who's the captain for single entry on DK for today? Well, we're going to do 50 yards and a touchdown because it's normally 100 yards and a touchdown. I think 50 is about appropriate because I don't really know what the hell else to kind of consider it. But that'll be kind of our starting point. And then I want to talk about our 3 favorite plays for the game, period. End of story. But 50 yards and a touchdown. Matt Gajewski, who are you locking in today?
Kyle Pitts. Again, it comes down to the tight end rule of the game. You have to have one on the field. Kyle Pitts technically fits that mold, but he doesn't play tight end. So love the potential opportunity he has with the best quarterback play of his career.
Matt Savoca?
Stephon Diggs.
I love that
Easy
call.
as that.
Easy as that. Just mic drop.
That's it.
I like it. I like it.
I think he's going to
go ahead. He's going to go off. I love that. I feel like he's the guy who might just get up for any game. Like if he might be competitive playing Xbox in the locker room to like a crazy degree. But I'm going to go with Mark Andrews. So again, tight ends and Mark Andrews. I'm just kind of I'm siding more with the guys that did not play last week. I'm not sure what the workload are going to look like for the likes of George Kittle, Travis Kelce, coming off of a full allotment of games and then just having to go back out there. I feel like it might feel more like a chore or maybe disappointing or something. Seems like they're having fun out there. Once again, was going through Instagram, but I feel pretty confident in saying Mark Andrews is going to be on the field a lot more than anybody else there, Travis Kelce specifically. So looking forward to rostering a lot of those guys. I think you should too. Now let's do this. So we're talking DK single entry, who you should be playing up at the captain spot. I think we all have 3 different answers. We just told you our flat out favorite plays on the game. Why don't we pick our 3 favorite contrarian plays on this slate? Matt Savoca, who are your 3 favorite players that you don't think are going to be as owned as they should be?
Okay. Well, I'll just do one of the defenses, but I'll just throw a dart. The NFC defense.
Okay.
Take just one of the defenses. I think George Kittle could have a huge game here, and I think CeeDee Lamb could have a huge game here. Those are the players that I feel like I don't have enough ownership of, and so I'm feeling like they're a little bit contrarian, especially with CeeDee Lamb. He kind of fell off a little bit at the end of the season, so maybe he's trying to prove something a little bit. But again, we're really going off narratives. We have no team trends other than the historical game trends here. It's tough to suss out.
All right, let's head on over to Matt Gajewski, your 3 favorite contrarian plays for today.
Yeah, so if Savoca said AFC defense, I go NFC. Jake Elliott, the kicker for the NFC. I just imagine a lot more people click Justin Tucker's name, given his pedigree. And then Hunter Renfrow, I think the receiver being slept on the most in terms of name value. He's also the cheapest on a slate where salary is not an issue. So you can play him, you can play anybody else. And I don't think people are going to play this strategy to begin with because you don't need him.
I love that call. I think the quarterback that is most likely to end up in the optimal is Justin Herbert. I think when it's just a flat game where Patrick Mahomes is going to be on the field a little bit less than maybe normal, I'm sure he'll be out there quite a bit here. But I think Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray, I think those are the two quarterbacks I'm the most inclined to take more shots on. Our last images of Kyler Murray were just him being horrendous, like flat out horrendous, but against a Rams defense, which is proved pretty formidable, I would say. I'm thinking that Kyler Murray is a guy that I really want to be over-invested to compared to the field at the quarterback position. Those are the two guys. Patrick Mahomes, I'm getting to a little bit of at the quarterback position as well, but I don't know how much people are actually clicking on them. On FanDuel specifically, where I'm playing a little bit more, I think it's a little bit more viable to take some shots over the field on some of these guys compared to where we think they might land. But I love Herbert, love Kyler Murray. Let's kind of open it up to questions here for 3 minutes. We've kind of made it here to the end of the boarding walk, but a Duvernay for me on one catch. That would be contrarian, Sean Preston. Matt Savoca, going back to that one, any like really low flyer, Jakeem Grant or Duvernay for you?
I truly have none of them right now, guys. I'm not saying that I'm correct here, but like I just really feel like the probability of zero for those players is as high or higher than players like Pat Ricard. Like I think the probability of Pat Ricard getting a non-zero is higher, and certainly for Kyle Juszczyk, it's higher. I do want to mention one overarching strategy thing about the slate. I have both on DraftKings and FanDuel, I have 10 wide receivers and tight ends between 20% and 40% ownership. So I almost feel like I gave anybody I didn't mention, it's not like I don't have them. And I bet it's the same for you guys here, where I'm really just mixing and matching with these pass catchers. And I would definitely want to have a ton of them. I'm just doing a couple salary-based considerations and thinking about who might get a little bit more usage, as we've been mentioning this whole show.
I love that. I don't even think we have to necessarily be perfect on this one. Matt Gajewski, any final thoughts here for the people? I guess Justin Jefferson MVP. Yeah, you could totally do that here. But any final words for the people that you need them to know with 2 minutes left to go?
Just if you're still trying to figure things out, I would lean towards leaving salary on the table. Should give you a contrarian approach to the slate while still building a good lineup because of the uncertainty we have with opportunity.
Yeah, don't play Jonathan Taylor in the captain spot. I will say that. Don't play running backs in the captain spot. And definitely on DraftKings, do not play quarterbacks in the captain spot. I would just remove them entirely. Matt Savoca had said like 3%. If you really are playing 150 and you want to be dabbling in a couple of those, sure, there's an outside chance Justin Herbert or somebody gets 2 touchdown passes, but I don't want to be taking that shot on DraftKings. On FanDuel, different conversation. There are upsides and paths to that, but quarterback rushing touchdowns, not going to be a thing. I'd be shocked beyond shocked if that happened. You're basically looking at 4 for them, and to get 2 of them, that would be 8. And then yardage wise, they're not going to go over 150. That's 1.5 or what is that? 25 per. So that's 6. So it's basically like 14 is a ceiling for a quarterback. I think every single skill position player or specifically receivers have a better chance to achieve that. But guys, what a job. We gave people some pretty good information, I think, to be able to build some positive EV lineups. Maybe. I don't know. Matt Savoca, my guy, we'll be back for the Super Bowl to round out the season, but any final words for the people?
I like how the sun is just opening up into this room as the show closes. So as you get, it's just, it's been thrilling to break this down. The Pro Bowl breaking down game by game is new for me this year. So it was exciting to find these trends and dig into it. Just take some shots. And as I said, I'm going with the defenses. It doesn't have to be that way for you.
Taking the over or under, I have no idea. Beat Boz, absolutely no clue. Matt Gajewski, any final words for the people?
Thank you, guys. Everyone crazy enough to get some action down on the Pro Bowl. Love that you're all here. It was a blast. And I personally love to do these kind of streams, preseason Pro Bowl. It's right up my alley. Love doing it. So I appreciate you guys being here, being the audience and the engine that allows us to do this.
Don't hate, because money don't discriminate. We got to just get that money, keep it going. Guys, come back here in 2 hours. Jordan Klein hated that. He absolutely could not stand that. You're embarrassed for me. You're embarrassed for me. That's cool. 2 hours to go here, and then we'll have NBA Live before lock. I'll be on that covering the 5-gamer. There's also a slate that locks in half an hour that I've got to build lineups for. That's going to be a thing. Guys, enjoy the Pro Bowl. See you all this week for the Super Bowl content. Looking forward to it. For Matt Gajewski, for Matt Savoca, yes, Matthew Gajewski and Matthew Savoca, I'm Eric Lindquist. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.